And here I'm with Chris Grautski, the head of sports performance for the football team at Holy Cross. And I'll start off with my first question here for you of why sports performance? I mean, I know it is strength and conditioning, so you really get to talk about more about why that and why you.
Yeah, well, first, I appreciate you having me on. So I think that it really dates back to college. So I was, football's obviously been really important to me throughout the years. I started playing when I was in fourth grade, and I played all the way through college for 5 years. And, in college, I studied it. And I thought that it was really interesting to me. My father was an advanced placement anatomy and biology teacher. So growing up around him and just being around, his, I'd call it an office, but his schoolroom, I got to see a lot of those things, and they interested me. And so that's what I studied at Worcester State. And then, getting into being a football coach, you kind of get, because of my background, they threw me into, being the strength coach at a very young age where I was not prepared to do it, I don't think. And then, I just always wanted to give kids what I didn't have. When we were in college, we kind of just did our own thing. We didn't have a strength coach that was responsible for us. A guy named Ted Perlak was the head strength coach at Fordham University, and he used to write our workouts and give them to our head coach at Worcester State, and they just hand us the paper and we'd go. So, you kind of figure it out. If you're not sure what something was, you asked, and you might have got the answer, a day or two later. So you made it up as you went. I think this is probably what it is, or that's what it was last time. So I guess it's probably this. So I just wanted to give kids at a lower level someone that was always there, watching them do it right, and giving them the why. I think the biggest part of strength and conditioning with football is that it's ingrained in our culture. You need to have a good weightlifting culture / background to be a successful football team, because eventually you're going to run into someone, if you win enough, that does have that culture, and that's not going to go very well for you if you don't have it. So I just want to make sure that I'm giving back the way that I didn't have at the lower levels. Obviously now working at Holy Cross, we have 4 full-time strength coaches, 5 part-time strength coaches, and then 6 interns every semester. So they have plenty of care up at our level. But being a D3 athlete and coaching there, 2 different places, that was my why in the beginning. It's obviously evolved into something that's kind of crazy when I sit back and think about it now, all the stuff that we do and what we got away with back in the day doing. But it's definitely come a long way.
Mm-hmm. And then, so now are you only football? You don't have to worry about any other sports?
So I am football and men's and women's golf. And I love my golfers. I get them a couple times a week. They're great. They work extremely hard. And the first question I always get from people is, how do you train them? Do you train them like football players? And the answer is absolutely not. We don't clean with them because their wrists are so important that I would never want to, jeopardize that for their sport. And they don't need the heavy loading. I actually just this year took the golf specific strength and conditioning course called TPI, which is very expensive. And I was fortunate enough that Holy Cross, the golf coaches, Steve Napoli and Tim Bebo, paid for that, and it was online. I was scheduled to go down to Atlanta, Georgia, and I was excited to go down there. But I sat and I took the course at my house, and it was very, very informative. And I'm not a golfer. Everyone I know golfs, and I'm horrible at it. But I now know probably way more about golf and the culture of golf. And these kids when they play, I don't know if you realize this, but they walk 36 holes. There's no cart in college golf. So they need to be prepared to lug the bag around and to be able to have that stamina to go. So there's a lot that goes into it, and the training for golf is cool, but it is very different than a lot of stuff. A lot of rotational aspects to it, and always constantly checking mobility of every joint. And when we find something that's off, helping them get that back to where it needs to be. But yeah, so not just football, got a little bit extra.
Then what would be the most important lift as a golfer that you would say you make sure you incorporate into every workout, or along the time?
I think med ball rotational work. So that's probably the most specific to their swing. And again, we don't want to completely mimic the swing, but making sure that their kinematic sequence is firing in the right way, being able to, their hip, that back hip needs to be able to drive the movement. So I think med ball rotational work is probably the most important. We'll squat with like a goblet, and then some of the more advanced golfers will front squat. I don't back squat any of them. I don't really see a need to load their spine. And then hex bar deadlift is probably another big one because that's pretty close to the position that they get in. It's a little bit lower, but you can gain strength and mobility on both sides, probably about 15% below and 15 above. So hex bar deadlift seems to be a good position to put them in. And again, they work very hard. And the best part, my favorite part about them, and in knowing their culture now, it makes sense, is that their workout cards, and I'll be honest, like football guys, like if they're going to go do a 1 dumbbell row, they're not really going to write that down. They don't care. Like they're just going to go do the row. That weight's not important. And I take care of the programming for all the rest of the weights, all the big lifts, it's already done on there. But the golfers, every single thing they do, similar to their golf card on the course, it is filled out to a T. Like I know a golf, card when I see one because every single little thing is filled out. Their attention to detail, and it comes from the course. So in the weight room, I love when that gets filled out the way it does. It makes me feel good.
Okay. So now when you say you did the course there for learning how to train golfers and whatnot, did they do like a big focus on like the biomechanics of their swing? Because I know you were talking about the kinetic force there too. So does that tie into it? I know I'm getting off track here, but
no,
I'm
not
interested.
at all. It's good stuff. And a lot of golfers listening to this could probably benefit. But,
yeah.
So there is no one way to swing the golf club is TPI's big sports science deal. But there is a good way for each individual person to swing the golf club. So there's different characteristics, and you might be an early extension guy. You might have sway to your swing. You might chicken wing it. There's a whole bunch of things you can look for. And then they have a screen that does it all. So like you'll take 3 swings from the front and I'll film it, and take 3 swings from the side and I'll film it. And then I can look and see when I draw my lines, what your club head's doing. Maybe you really are up over the top, but then you fix it before you get to the club head to the ball sort of thing. Like there are different swings for different people. So, the kinematic sequence is really cool because they put electrodes on their golfers at like the institutes. And they noticed in the beginning that as the hips are coming towards and you're seeing the graph go up, all of a sudden there's this little slowdown, right, of the hips with their electrodes. Then the torso kicks in and the torso starts to go. Then there's this little slowdown. And then there's the club head coming through. And right before that's about to hit the ball, there's a little slowdown. So each part of the body is grabbing on to the next part. So like your thoracic region, so your rib cage area grabs onto your hips before it's about to come through. And then like the club head and your arms grab onto the rib cage before it's about to come through. And they said they couldn't really figure out why people were slowing down like right before each part. And it was each area of the body like grabbing and using the force into the next part.
Would it
so
be
they
like
do that.
like an inertial lag? Would that be like a correct way to say it? Okay.
Very similar to that. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So like learning about that was interesting. Now, obviously we don't have like electrodes to put on the golfers at Holy Cross, but I'm sure some of these like North Carolina, Duke, like those places that are like big golf schools in the South, I'm sure they do. But my goal is to, if football strength and conditioning doesn't work out, I'd love to train golfers in the South.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. Nice weather. Just walk the course all the time.
Always wanted to go down south. Never had the opportunity to, but I'm not opposed to it.
Okay. All right. Now we'll go back to the football side of things. What would be just in your opinion, not necessarily your, I guess, what your preference would be, but like your opinion, what's like the best lift for a football player, the most important lift?
Whew. So I go back and forth on squat and clean. I think that those are the big 2. And both are total body movements, right? So it takes your whole body to be able to squat, especially a front squat, right? You're front loading, your whole anterior core has to be able to stabilize. But the clean is so dynamic. It's so explosive. I think you need them both. So I'm not going to choose. I'm going to give you those 2.
Okay.
And we do both of them in many different derivatives. We snatch, we'll front squat, we'll safety bar squat. So it all depends on the athlete too. Like not all of our kids back squat because some of them don't look great in the bottom position, or they have some sort of biomechanical issue that a safety bar, if it's thoracic, like they're able to get into a better position with a safety bar. Some of our guys front squat because one of our D linemen has a conjugal defect right above his kneecap and right below the edge of his femur. It's like a divot. And so when he back squats, it puts more of a forward lean to him, and he catches that divot with one of his tendons, and it really messes him up. But he can front squat perfectly. So I think that, not all exercise is great if you can define why you're using it and what you're going to get out of it. So for us, it's clean and squat are probably our big two for athlete development.
Yeah.
Riley, nobody. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
I'm just pulled up outside, so she
getting a little excited. It happens. No, this is more just I'm listening to you. How would you able to find that kind of the defect and divot and know that the front squat would work? Was that just kind of trial by error, or do you already have that knowledge coming in?
No, so we had that knowledge. So they all get screened, like in the recruiting process, whether it's at camp with us or if it's in the medical notes. They all have an appointment with our team physician and our team orthopedic, and they comb through everything. And, they check out and see, what this guy's got. Some guys come in with post-surgical stuff that we got to be sensitive to. Some guys come in completely clean, bill of health. But that one was caught, it happened to him in high school.
Oh, okay.
But they all get a movement screen done on them when they get here. We're fortunate that we get all the freshmen up at the beginning of the summer. And so they have their own group for the first 2 weeks, and then we integrate them in with the rest of the guys. But just really teaching them and going through every movement and then looking and seeing all right, this kid doesn't handle this as well. Let's regress them back. We do everything based off of progression and regression principles. So if, the regression looks good, then we progress to the next part of the movement. If you use squat for an example to just check it all off, the lowest form of squat would be a hand-assisted squat, where you're going to put your hand at about belly button level and you're going to squat down and you're going to assist yourself up and down to make sure that those angles of everything, that your shin angle matches your torso angle and you move well. And then we take away that and you're in a body weight squat, then we'll goblet load you, and then we front load you, and then we back load you, and then we go PVC pipe overhead to see what you look like in an overhead squat. And then so every kid's got a profile on them, and then we're not going to put square pegs through round holes. So whenever we, wherever you are, we'll give you correctives to get to the next one. And you might not get there for 6 months. You might not get there for a year, but we'll be able to put pressure on you and, have you become a, better athlete strength-wise and mobility-wise while we can. And then, we'll go from there.
That sounds very intensive. That's awesome, actually.
When you only have, at those other schools I worked at, I had 24 teams at Assumption. I had 9 teams when I was at WPI. Just having 1 or 2, I guess, golf and football, you're able to dive way deeper at the individual level. Okay. Now, so that's been huge. If I had everybody, I'd be able to get that specific.
I got you. Now, how much do you do just yourself, and how much do you disperse to anybody who's helping you out?
That's a great question. So I'm extremely hands-on, and I have trust issues. So I do everything myself, and I have no problem delegating though. If I got a sure set of hands, like Coach Oliver, our head strength coach, he knows anytime he wants to come out on the floor and coach, he's got 30 years of experience as a strength coach, and he's a football strength coach for a really long time, and probably my biggest mentor. So when he comes out and he coaches, it's awesome, and I love it. He knows he's always invited, and he goes to all our games with us, and he pretty much was very welcoming when I came over. So whatever he wants to, he knows he's more than welcome, and he comes out and helps out. We'll always have 1 or 2 interns that are really gung-ho, I want to work with football. And sometimes you got to reel them back a little bit because they're so over the top, but it's a good quality to have. My biggest thing is consistency. Coach always the only one that I'll allow to just kind of come out and coach because it's his place. But I would not interns. They're either in or they're out. So if you come up here and we have you for 6 months and you say you want to be with football, you're with football every day because our kids need consistency. They don't need someone coming and going and you're here sometimes, you're not here other times. I want them to know, and my biggest thing is I want them to learn all the kids' names. I don't care about anything else. If you're coming here from Springfield College, which is where we get most of our kids for our intern, I know that they're trained really well because Dr. Thompson does a phenomenal job out there. So does Adam Fite. And I don't have to worry about them coaching, but I want them to build a relationship with our kids. Now, obviously it stinks because every 6 months they get new interns.
Yeah.
So, But at the end of the day, there's still people that are caring about them. First thing I do is hand them a roster, learn where these kids are from, learn their names. That's it. That's the biggest thing. And once the kids know that, hey, this guy knows my name, like, then there's a connection begins to be built. And, you know, that's how Coach Chesney wants our program to be run. So I make sure I facilitate that all the time.
Okay. And then getting into, I don't know that much about strength and conditioning or building muscle, I guess you'd say, but like, I know one of the things that we had done in my recent history is we use the conjugate method as kind of our way to build things. I know there's other things like linear periodization and whatnot. Do you use any of those models, or is it more just the progression and regression kind of type of
process?
So
definitely use, all right, so I'm a big triphasic guy.
Okay.
A lot of tempo lifting, so eccentric movements, isometric movements, and then like a max effort type deal. Like we do a lot of heavy neural singles, so that would be more like a conjugate max effort type day. And we do everything in spots. So like a college calendar is really like broken up in spots. So like in seasons, the closest to linear periodization as we go. And throughout the years, like my example is at Assumption, we had some really strong kids at Assumption. And I'd get all the way up. So we'd start at 74 or 73% for 3 reps, week 1. And then you just build yourself all the way up over the 11-week season, whatever it is. And in my early years of coaching, Fitchburg State, WPI, even my first 2 years at Assumption, I went all the way up to 95 or 96% for 2 sets of 1 in the last week of the season. And the guys got it. But some of those linemen, like, and again, we have like 8 warm-up sets to get to that. Like, you don't just throw. But like one of the linemen, it's actually Jack Dustin, who's the head strength coach now. Jackie had like 550 pounds on his back. And he buried both of those reps. He was all red. And he's like, man, that was tough. And I was like, I never want to do that to a kid again. Here to play football. Why am I putting that much weight on his back at the end of a season? Now, granted, they all get it, and I could do it, but I just thought there was a better way. So what we go linear periodization in season until 90%, and then we drop way back down, and then we undulate the rest of the way. And we get to 90 probably over 7 weeks. And then weeks 8, 9, 10 are undulated, 11, 12, 13, depending on, you know, how far we make it, we undulate there. And we put the gym aware, so we have a system. We have 17 iPads that connect to the bars, and it tracks bar speed. So now in season, we do everything based off of bar speed. So whatever that weight is, it's got a speed that should correlate with it. And now this would have been season 3 using that information. They probably went up like 4 to 6% in speed each week throughout in the comparison year 1 to year 2. I was excited to see if it would continue on in year 3. But that's as close to linear as we get. Outside of that, we tempo lift in their block when they come back from winter break. So winter break, they get back, we get them for 5 weeks. So the first week's like a half week. We have a team meeting on a Wednesday, and then we do upper body, lower body. Then we start their triphasic stuff. So they'll go 5-second eccentrics for 2 weeks, and then they'll go 5-second isometrics for 2 weeks. And we'll do rep out sets the first 2 where they'll burn out up to like 15 to 20. And I got to increase the weights some of these years because these kids, like I say, hey, no one's going to get to 20. And we get a kid hit 21. Right. So then now they'll go up to 75% or whatever it might be. But they're competitors. They love it. Yeah. And like the football kids love being in the weight room. And then spring ball is, you know, modified maintenance, right? In season, like strength coaches hate using the word maintenance. Like we're always trying to get stronger. But you're not going to be as aggressive with the volume, right? Volume's not your friend, but intensity is. And so that's what we try to live off of in the weight room. But yeah, linear periodization in college athletics is tough. You're almost always undulating in one form or another, just because of the time blocks that you have. Then we get into spring ball, and then they get the month of May where they go home. And then they come back in June, and I have them for, 4 weeks in June, and then take a week off, and they go away. And then they come back, and I have them for 4 weeks in July and the first week of August, and we start camp. But, we're fortunate where we get the whole team up for the summer. And for me, that's huge because then I can control, everything that's happening to them. And, we train them in weight vests and wool hats and sweatshirts all summer to mimic the pads. So when the time they get into the pads, it's nothing. They've been doing it. So.
Okay. Is that in the heat too, or is that allowed?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So a lot of good conversations with the athletic trainers. Our athletic trainer from Assumption, Gwen, was great with it when we did it. And the low budget model of that is, everyone brings their own hat. So every kid's got like different hats on. They got different sweatshirts on. And to mimic the weight vest, I got the hose over by the entrance, and they just come over and I soak them with the hose. And so now, like, I couldn't figure out any other way to get weight on them. So that's what we did at Assumption. And after the first time we did that, and I'm not saying this is, any rhyme or reason why we won that first championship, but, we put the sweatshirts and hats on them at Assumption. 2015, won the league. And then didn't look back there. And then Holy Cross, we put the sweatshirts and hats on them this past summer, and then won the league for the first time since '09. So I think a lot of the preparation, they're able to handle camp a lot better when they're with you all summer and you control everything. And we're just fortunate that, and they all pay their own way too, for the most part.
Oh, wow.
For some part. They did that at Assumption. Coach Chesney obviously told them exactly why it's going to matter. And I don't really believe there's any other Patriot League team that has their entire team up there. I'm sure they have guys on campus, but I know a lot of these high academic places, they push. They say, hey, go out and do your internship anywhere you want. But, we get these guys hooked up in Worcester and around Worcester, and, they work all day and they come and train with me in the evening. So it's been a lot of fun.
Sure, that's great. Now, what do you think about Worcester? I mean, Worcester State, WPI, Assumption, Holy Cross. What is it about Worcester you don't want to leave?
I love it here, man. So I mean, I have not gotten any opportunities outside of here. I'm not opposed to it, but to be able to go up from WPI, which is Division III, to Assumption, is Division II, and then Holy Cross. I don't know many cities that have 3 different division football teams in them, let alone being able to make that jump from one place to the other and just being at the right place at the right time and having success. But it's I love Worcester, and I think getting the Woo Sox here is going to be awesome. I've heard rumors, I can't confirm or deny, but Holy Cross is probably going to play a football game there against someone local in New England next fall.
Okay. Is that a nice little plug I can put out there that I was the first one to have that scoop? Can I say that?
I cannot confirm or deny that.
Okay.
That's things that I've heard, and I think that'll make a lot of sense because we don't have lights at Fitton Field. And every time that we have a night game, they have to buy the lights and bring them in, but they play games at Fenway Park. So I think it would be a really smart partnership, if they are just rumors, to get Holy Cross down there. And I think it's going to be about 15,000 is what that stadium's going to hold. And I think at our home games this year, I think we average like 8 or 9. So I think that would, with a local team like a Harvard or a Yale or a UNH, somebody that, has a good New England fan base, I think that would be really cool. And then you could come down, get dinner down on Water Street or Green Street and, walk down to the stadium. And I think it'd be a lot of fun. I think Worcester is just getting to, it's going to get a lot better out here, I think. And I just bought a house here. Selfishly.
To add to it even more, yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm going to put out there the night before or day after should be a WPI Worcester State game. Might not be a bad idea, but
especially because they didn't play last year, did they? Didn't they take them off the schedule?
No, we just got back to playing them last year. It was week 1
good.
with not going to say the score because it's kind of mean, but it was a week 1 game.
Yeah, that's I think they got 1 coach in the office.
Yeah, it's not we had 6 I think we've got with our 3 full-time and 3 interns, so
I wish they
outnumbered
stuff, but is what it is.
Now, what you mentioned, Water Street, Green Street, and different. What's your favorite food spot? I know Scott Sperone started us off week 1. He definitely had some eateries, but what's your number 1 go-to restaurant?
I'm a Banner guy.
Okay.
Banner's got great food too. Probably one of the best shepherd's pie in the city.
Really? I don't think I've ever gone to the Banner being like, I'm going to get shepherd's pie.
$9.99. I don't know if in COVID times they could keep it going, but the shepherd's pie is really good. That's my go-to. It comes with a side salad, and it's pretty good.
Okay, so talking about side salad and food, now you say sports performance. What else do you do besides just strength and conditioning with the team?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So I'm actually the team's certified nutritionist, and I got my nutrition certification through Precision Nutrition. And this company did a really good job of simplifying things for athletes. So most of our athletes, now you're always going to have your hardcore like psycho that like weighs all of his food on a scale and
Yeah.
like counts every pistachio that he eats. Those kids exist and they're great. But that mindset is not great for all the kids. So what this company did was they made your measuring tools unique to you. So like your hands are what we used for measuring. So the palm of your hand, or take away your fingers and your thumb, that's one portion of protein. Right now, ball your hand up into a fist. That's a serving of vegetables or fruit.
Okay.
Then you cup your hand, and what you can fit in there with rice or potatoes, that's a serving of starchy carbs. And then your thumb is a serving of healthy fat. So that just made up one perfect plate for you.
That's
And
awesome.
depending on your goals, you might be a 3-plate a meal guy if you're really trying to gain. If you're trying to lose, you might be a 1.5 plate guy. But for us, like, we just want to make it simple. And your hands are different than my hands, right? Like,
Right.
our big 110-pound lineman, he's going to have way different hands, than our running backs are going to have. So having that conversation with them, and we'll never tell anybody to not eat something, right? Because there are food, like what's a great junk food that you really enjoy eating that makes you happy?
So I don't want to admit this, I guess, but I have now since one of our other coaches was with us and he kind of, I guess, ruined me. But I'm a big fan of McDonald's, whether it's French fries or like a big, whatever it may be, some one article, but like love
Yeah,
McDonald's now.
I love it. And McDonald's is delicious. We would never tell our team not to eat fast food. What we would tell them is eat less, right? So if you usually go to McDonald's 7 times a week, let's cut that down to 3 times a week.
I can say I
Right now,
definitely don't do that, but thank you.
that's an absurd example, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, that's way far out spot. But and then we want to eat more of the good stuff. So we talk to the kids about eating the rainbow. So every vegetable and every fruit for its color has different nutrient values and powers that when you eat unlock different cheat codes in your body. So if we could eat every single color, and like we had a vegetable eating competition over like quarantine.
Yeah.
And like they just had to go on and like log like what vegetables they ate during that current week. And it's really cool to see some of the variety of things. Like almost everybody's eating broccoli, but there's some cool ones in there, rhubarb and like things like that like you wouldn't assume that like our college football players are eating.
Does that go under vegetable or fruit? And I'm asking, I don't really know.
I'm pretty sure it's vegetable, but it could be like, I think tomato goes under fruit. But
Right.
again, like they're all like fruits and vegetables we'll put in the same category. You just want to be careful with the sugar that comes from the fruits, for some of the guys. Now, like the other thing that we know with this certification is pretty cool is that the different body types, ectomorph, mesomorph, endomorph, they all tolerate carbohydrates, fat, and protein differently. So like your jacked up middle linebacker that's like pretty well body comped up, he's gonna benefit very much from a balanced diet, right?
Okay.
Carbs, protein, fat, all very similar. Your offensive linemen, on the other hand, are going to benefit way more from a high quality fat diet and lower carbs, right? They don't tolerate carbs very well. They just want to store them right away. But the fat gets converted to energy and it actually helps burn the other fat that's on them. Where your skinny guys, right, your tall wide receiver, like your 6'3", like 190-pound guy, they can eat carbs for days and they tolerate carbs really well. That's how they need to try to build on top of their body. So that's another cool thing. As far as like what we provide and what we do, pre-workout, we give them honey stingers.
Okay.
Honey
stingers I enjoy those actually.
They're delicious. So we give them honey stingers pre-workout, and they'll take that in the locker room around, like, say they get to the locker room 10 minutes before the lift starts. We don't touch weights in the lifts until like the 23, 25-minute mark. So that 35 to 40-minute mark of I ingested those in the locker room. Now that spike of glycogen in the muscles is up, and right when they need it, they start cleaning, squatting, benching, they have it there for them. Post-workout, we got a great student-athlete refueling station. It's got everything from granola to trail mix to protein shakes to chocolate milk to yogurt. We got vitamins B, D, and vitamin C all in the form of pumps. So they'll pump it into a cup, drink it, tastes really good. And then football-wise, what we give them is zinc, magnesium, and fish oil. And zinc and magnesium together. Obviously, I believe that soil and farming and all that is way different now than it was 50 years ago, 100 years ago. I think there's way less nutrients in the soil. So I think people in general are deficient in a lot of ways. So one, from a deficiency standpoint, the zinc and magnesium helps, and it also helps legally raise their testosterone. And some of
Okay. I like how you said legally raised. I like that.
yeah, like the science has shown that promotes testosterone in men. And now, obviously, it's
Okay.
legal to give the guys supplements, which is great. And we got to make sure everything's NSF certified and all that. And fish oil, believe it or not, just got passed by the NCAA recently.
Oh, really? I didn't realize it was. That's not good by me that I didn't know that. But
no, it's all good. So in the argument by the nutritionists and the dietitians were that it's essentially calories, like they're fatty acids.
yeah.
So like when you take fish oil, it's not like magnesium or zinc where it's a mineral and it doesn't have any caloric base. Like when you look at the back of a fish oil container, it says 10 calories, 15 calories. So just providing calories, and it's great for cognition, right? So we want to make sure that we're doing everything to keep them sharp up top. And if it can help with concussions, that's also something why we started giving it to them. And it also can help with, and I think we probably have to give them more for this effect to happen, but a lot of combine prep guys will take a ton of fish oil because it leans them out and it makes them look a little bit more fit. But it also known to help out like lubricating joints, or at least feel that your joints are in a little bit better spot. So that's pretty much what we do. Game day nutrition is probably my favorite thing now that we have the budget. So at Assumption, we used to get them Milky Ways. And
really?
Milky Ways for halftime is all we did.
That's awesome. I wish I was playing there at that point.
Right? It was awesome.
Yeah.
They loved it. They ate them all. Now at Holy Cross, I spend $200 a game. And I have the biggest spread you've ever seen for the locker room. And we're very fortunate to have the budget we have. And it all gets eaten. Like they eat every bit of it. But again, at the lower levels, you'll eat what they give you. And the Milky Way got eaten, but I got, and so I don't, it's not about me either. Like a lot of this stuff is like comfort stuff for them. Like when we first got the Holy Cross, I asked them like, what do you guys want for halftime? And then I just made a list, and it was everything from like grapes to Starburst to M&Ms. Like, and I'm not getting M&Ms. I'm sorry. Like I got to get something different, but it's all negotiable. And then eventually, like I forget what's the one that someone had a really obscure thing, and I got them that. And it just like lights them up when they get into the locker room. Like a lot of these guys are based around tradition too. Like they got super traditions that they have, and all that stuff matters. Every little bit of that goes into the final product. So and I cut up fruit on every game day. So
really?
So I bring my cutting table out to the field where I put all the oranges and bananas and all that right out there, and then I got my Ginsu knife, and I just start cutting up. And they come out there when they, the first time they hit the field when it's not organized, and they grab their oranges and their half bananas, and then whatever's left over from that first field session I bring in, and they'll eat it, before the game. And we've even like if we were to play this year, Coach Chesney and I talk about a bunch, but we don't want to introduce it halfway through, but black coffee, if timed right, could actually be a really good kick. So I'm going to look more into the timing, but something like that caffeinated, I think would be like that little bit of caffeine would give them a good jolt.
I wonder if there's like a protein bar, or not necessarily, but like some kind of like bar that's just like straight like coffee bean based. That might be that kind of same effect.
Probably something, right? Like
it's
probably, but just going to get like a box of Joe from Dunkin' Donuts would probably be a little more cost effective.
True.
I think they'd be happy if I did something like that than ordering a bunch of bars. But I'm with you. Someone definitely makes some sort of caffeinated protein bar. It has to exist.
Oh yeah, I'm thinking about it now. I wonder if that's out there as like just protein. I can have a protein shake in the morning. That's like my coffee. Be awesome.
Right? Oh, sure. Definitely.
Now, is that like an intimidation factor too? You're sitting there just cutting like fruits, sitting there on the sideline or whatever it may be.
I don't know. I tweeted Emerald a couple times, and he never tweeted back. But I don't know if just the fact that I'm doing it, maybe. Like I'm not trying to intimidate anybody. I'm just trying to cut fruit, and I would much rather do it outside than inside. Like if it's raining, I'll do it inside. But if it's a day out, I want to be out around the guys, and might as well multitask.
Yeah, makes sense. Now, what are you able to do game day? I know your background's a coach and used to be on the sidelines and doing all that. What do you get to do game day football wise?
Yeah, so
or is that okay for me to ask too? But
so normal day, like so I stretch them for the pregame stretch, and after that, like I'm just I keep them behind the line. That's it. And it's not a glorious job. Like strength coaches in America hate the idea of the get back coach. That
Yeah.
at this level, it's honestly more the coaches than it is the players. The players
Okay.
are really good about staying back, but the coaches are they toe the line. So
Yeah.
we do our best to keep them back, and that gets vilified in strength and conditioning. Like they believe that coaches should be able to control themselves. For people that
Right.
are disciplined and all that, like they can't stay behind. They're like, this is your area. You got to stay here. And,
Yeah.
and it is what it is. Like in the heat of passion, coaches get mad at you. And, I was one, and I don't take any offense to it. Like, I've been I've been swatted at, and it doesn't bother me. Like you got to do your job, and you pull them back, and that is what it is. And maybe that changes one day. I don't know, but I just try to get excited, love the kids up on game day, and if there's anywhere I can help out as far as just like seeing things, I guess I try to do that. But without a headset, it's tough. Like
Yeah.
if you have a headset on, you don't have a pulse on what's actually going on out there. And I'll be honest, I have not watched in depth a football game for 4 years, maybe.
Oh,
Like
wow.
I literally, like I use as a D-line coach, you're watching every single intricacy that's happening on, your side closest to you, and the guy up top's getting the other. And I haven't done that. I actually enjoy watching the offense go a lot. Like
Okay.
that's a lot of fun with that. But it's amazing how quickly the games go, and there's still that drained feeling at the end of a game that you would have as like a position coach. Like
Okay.
you still, but it's just not as like mentally draining. It's probably more
Just the
physical.
emotion.
I'm just walking up and down the entire day.
Oh.
Like I get like 20,000 steps on a game day, just from moving around the whole time. So,
Yeah.
and then I had my hip replaced 2 years ago, so I got to be really careful with like the antics that I do before games. Like I gotta down a little bit, and that's been tough for me. Sometimes I get reminded sometimes, like when I dive into them, and then I
Yeah.
get crowds out, and like just a little bit uncomfortable with my hip, but it's just something I just got to get used to.
You got to move into, I guess, the like the wrestling like promos instead of being more like a rock star and jumping into the crowd.
Oh man, I just got to stop doing it all too. Like game day is the day where like I can just sit back and watch, and like all the hard stuff happens before that from my like department. So
Yeah.
when they're in the game, they're prepared, they're ready to go. The coaches are phenomenal. They do a good job with them. But as far as injuries go, it's been really cool to see how well these guys have handled everything we've thrown at them. Like we didn't have one soft tissue injury last year, which is
Oh,
wild.
wow. Better knock on wood for that.
Trust me, we knock every day, and everything that we do for them is to try to prevent them from, getting hurt. So nothing you're going to be able to do with broken feet, and you're going to get a labrum every year. But outside of that, like, quads, hamstrings, pecs, triceps, like that's all stuff that we can prevent with sound training. And sound training comes from them buying into, what we're selling. And you just got to make them understand that, this is obviously important because this is how it translates to the field. Right? They don't, when they come into a lift, you can't just roll the ball out and say, let's go. Like, and I suppose you could. I'm sure places do that. But regardless, like when we're doing eccentric bench, we let them know that they're doing it to be able to absorb force better. And that when you're on the field and you're doing that, that's going to help you. When we're doing concentric bench, you're obviously trying to rapidly put force out if it's a velocity day, or make yourself stronger if it's not, with force development. So getting them the why to everything we do, I think is really crucial. To them buying into the program. And then, obviously in times of COVID, they've been on their own since March, like 10th.
Mhm.
Like that's a scary thing for me. Like
I was going to say, how do you feel about that?
I trust them to do their jobs and to work out. I think the workouts are happening. There's a kid at Assumption that went home for a whole summer, and he squatted by himself after he worked at a UPS packing plant the whole day. And when he came back and we tested him, his squat depth was literally like 7 inches different. And he didn't have anybody helping him the whole time. He squatted to perceived. He didn't have a mirror. Then he perceived that depth, and he got really frustrated. So I think that the kids, it's really important for them to be with someone that knows what they're talking about and what they're doing. When they lift on their own, it worries me a little bit just because there's no feedback, especially if they don't have a mirror. They can't see what's actually going on. So then you reprogram your body to do whatever it is you did for 12 weeks. That's a long programming time. Then they come back, and now we got to, figure out what we're going to do with that kid. Like, He's got a brand new squat depth that his brain and his body is used to. Like, do we break it and put him back to where he was? He's a senior, probably not. Like,
that's not fruitful at that point.
Yeah, he's a football player, and it's not going to kill him what he did, but it's not going to help like mobility. Like, he just stiffened himself right up. So I don't know if that answers the question or not.
No, it definitely does. We went on a different path there too, but that's fine. What do you think about then mobility? What do you do when it comes to Tom Brady pliability and the Tom Brady method, or what
No, nope, not at all. I think that a sound strength and conditioning sports performance program incorporates a little bit of everything and more of what's needed, with each individual person. And sometimes it's like a salary job, right? Like sometimes, the amount of mobility that we do might not be enough for some guys. So we got guys that come in on their own and do extra stuff. Like, the last thing I care about is them coming in to try to lift more. Like, we don't have guys come in and do that because we give an effective dose when they're in there in team lifts. And if you want to come in and do extra, you could come in and bury your arms. I have no problem with that. But as far as like doing any multi-joint movements extra, it's not needed because we dose it properly. And when they come in, they're going to come in to do deep hip stretches. They're going to come in to do shoulder mobility or rotator cuff work. Like, we have a whole program that they get when they first get here, that if you want to do extra, here's extra. Eyes, Y's, T's for your shoulders. Like, all that rehabby type stuff, or prehabby, however you want to think about it, that's the crucial stuff. Like, and eating, sleeping, and hydration, most important, right? The 6 to 8 hours they spend with me training is minuscule to how many hours they have of stress during the rest of the day, and how they handle that stress with the sleep at night. Teaching them how to take the phone light and turn that to so it's not blue light, before bed, put that on the other side of the room and hook up your alarm over there. So you have to actually get out of bed when it rings and you're not snoozing it. Shutting all the windows down with curtains and making sure that there is no light at all in your room. And then hydration's the biggest part. Like, I don't know if you've heard this about us or not, but like, we test hydration. And, before practice, they come down to the locker room, they pee in a cup, and I test it. And I can tell them exactly what they are for practice. And if you're not hydrated to the standard, you get an electrolyte solution that rapidly rehydrates you. You pee again, and then hopefully you pass. We had one kid in the last 2 years that did not pass. It took him actually 23 days to pass as a freshman. And
would that be like a body issue that you're just that dehydrated?
That's what I went. So he was getting numbers that what the science suggests would be close to kidney failure. So we had him see the doc, and nothing's wrong with him. He's just not hydrated. And
okay,
he's no longer with us. But regardless, I felt like I don't know. I don't know what he was doing. Like, he obviously wasn't drinking enough water. Like,
right.
If you drink enough water, you can be hydrated. So just wasn't putting time in to do that. But yeah, it's not for everybody.
No, I mean, I can tell you, I drink enough water now where I think I pee 3 times an hour. But that might be because I'm getting older too. But
yeah, no, that could factor in too. But I mean, they have 48-ounce Nalgene bottles with the Holy Cross shield on it, and they know that they need to drink 3 of those at minimum every day. So, that's probably the biggest injury reduction tactic, I think. That, and the pen we use is electric, and it's $600. It's well worth the investment, but it puts me in there testing pee every day. So, you got the right type of person to, be humorous about some of the things that happen in like a football. That job is not for everybody. And,
no, definitely not.
Right, wrong, different. Like, it is what it is. Yeah. But it makes me feel better and the coaches feel better when they know that the product out there in front of them is adequately prepared to handle what they're giving them to handle. Mm-hmm. Majority of hamstrings happen when people are either severely fatigued or hydrated, or the combination of both.
Right.
We try to minimize all that stuff. We got a nice GPS system through Catapult that, we track the kids throughout practice. So every angle of it gets looked at.
Wow. That seems intense, which is a good way intense. Then do you miss just the coaching side of things? I know it's been a little bit. It's been 4 years since you've really evaluated any games or anything like that. Do you miss it? Putting you on the spot a little bit. I didn't tell you I would ask that one, but
I love it. No, So I was a career D-line coach. I coached D-line for 7 years, and I have a very particular way that I thought it should be coached. So there is no like middle ground. I can't help out someone else out like when I don't. Not saying agree with it, but like I had a specific way to do everything, and it was going to get that. It was going to get done that way, and it produced great results. So I sit back, and they've hired great people to do it. Our D-line coach at Holy Cross is awesome, and he does a great job. So that's his baby, and I stay away from it. Like,
Okay.
and I try to like. I wouldn't. The only place I'd feel comfortable like going would be the D-line, and then I'd feel like I was spending too much time with them if I stayed there. So like during practice, I'll go around to as many different groups as I can. I'll spend time with the O-line. Quarterbacks is probably my favorite. I like spending time with the QBs, also because I was a high school center, so like I can snap to them. Shotgun, they'll take snaps from me, which is fun. But I just like to help out, and like going against the offensive lineman at this level. Like, and again, I got to remind myself with the hip. But like last season, I do get offs on the offensive line, and man, could those tackles kick slide.
A little different than the Division III offensive lineman.
Man, they're so fast. Their punches are so heavy. Like when those dudes' hands hit you, it's like getting hit with a cinder block. But it's fun, like, and I don't know. I have fun with it.
Okay. Talk about quarterbacks per se. I spend a lot of time with exactly what they do in like a pre-practice routine and whatnot. What do you guys do to ensure quarterbacks' arms are kind of ready to go, or whether it's their hands too with doing some grip strength stuff?
It's a great question. So I think where people miss the mark with that position philosophically is warming guys up by throwing a bunch of balls. Right? Like, I think that there should be some sort of arm care routine where you go through different ranges of motion, getting an extra rotation, whether it be bands or on air or just like holding it up there and going. But any routine is better than just throwing 60 balls and say, all right, I'm ready to go. But there's this, you get a quarterback sleeve that they can wear. And it does how many throws they have. It's a pitch count. It has velocity on their balls, that whole deal. And then it also is like a readiness option. So like it connects to the quarterback's coach's phone, and you can fill it out before, like, this is my readiness score for the day. So like if some guy's like low, at least you can have a conversation about it. And then you could reference what the kid's perception is based off of what the previous day's amount of reps were.
Right.
But
like if
so
they're just tired and that's going into it kind of thing.
Right. Like, we don't want their arms to ever be sore. Like everyone always asks me, like, "Oh, do you bench the quarterbacks? Do you clean them?" Like, it's a way different motion than baseball. Like, we don't bench baseball players. When I trained baseball, I didn't bench baseball players. That motion is way back here, and it's way more violent on all the joints. Like the football players' motion is way tighter. It's not as demanding on the shoulder. So I know I just went off on a tangent there, but.
No,
treat them the same, please, if you're listening.
Okay, so I'd say the one thing we do differently, and it's more just the range of motion, and I want to see what you think because I'm legitimately curious, is we'll do instead of like with our bench press stuff, we'll do more like a foam press or like a wood-plated press where they're going to that so it's not all the way down. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah, we do that for any like post-surgical athlete.
We incorporate it for them too, so it's not just the quarterbacks. But
yep, yeah. So shortened range of motion, I think, is great if you're post-surgical. You lose a little bit on like the pec development, but as far as like progression, regression, or risk reward, it's way less risky when you put that pad in there. Okay. So I'm behind it. Anyone that's got a shoulder issue, that's the first thing we go to. And they also make ones that attach to the bar instead of the person. So like you could look those up too, and that attaches to the bar. So when you come down, I think they're actually called shoulder savers, and it touches your body and stops the bar early when you come back up.
Huh. We just did a very cost-effective. Had somebody hold a foam roller on your chest and use it that way, but that actually is awesome. I'm going to look for that.
Would want to do. If you have the option. So they make half rollers. So it's the foam roller cut in half.
That's what we have. Sorry, that's what we have.
All right. And you can put it under your shirt, but in COVID times, you might not.
Yeah, that's true.
But they're all sweating anyway, so we'll see.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting to see how everything shakes out that way. Although speaking about COVID times and pandemic world, did you watch any awesome shows or do anything different than you normally do being home?
Nothing really different. Just try to stay in a routine every day. But the show that we did pick up was Yellowstone. I don't know
Okay.
if you've seen
I
Yellowstone, but
haven't
it's
seen it. I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
awesome. It's awesome. You could get it on. It's on Paramount Network if you have that, and then you could get it on demand through Peacock, which is kind of like a Hulu or a Netflix.
Okay, I might have to look for that one. I think I downloaded Peacock when it came out because got big into the Premier League soccer and they had a bunch of the Premier League games on it. But
Nice. Yeah, the Peacock. What was I going to say?
maybe
Yeah.
you're talking about Yellowstone.
Oh, Yellowstone. Kevin Costner is the lead in that, and he does
Okay.
a really.
Okay.
But it's all like it's Montana ranches and that lifestyle. And there's like Native Americans out there, and there's like that clash between like the ranchers and them. So it's pretty good show. There's 3 seasons. You can buzz watch all 3 right now.
Okay,
So,
I might have to definitely check that out. Have you ever seen the show then? It's kind of maybe not similar, but the show The Ranch on Netflix with Ashton Kutcher and I can't think of the other people, but he's like the main actor.
you'd recommend it?
I would. It's a little more goofy, but the same premise of like ranchers trying to have their own ranch with like a bigger conglomerate company kind of come in and take over like the family ranch instead, kind of deal. And there's
Got it.
obviously hijinks, and Ashton Kutcher's not the smartest bulb kind of thing in the show.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, this has been great. Before I kind of wrap us up, one of the things I've done is let the person being interviewed ask a question to me. Do you have anything you want to try to put me on the spot with?
How would you say you have turned WPI's offense into an explosive, threatening offense? Because from looking at the scores, it looks like you've scored a lot of points. And how did you do it?
Have great players and just let them do their thing. But
That was easy.
yeah, no, but to kind of give a little more into it, the thing we've done is to let our guys be able to play as fast as they can. We worry about all the other stuff. We just tell them like, hey, like if it's say power, like this is where it's going to hit. If you see it, you're going to bounce it or cut it, whatever it may be. And then we do all like we do a lot of window dressing. We do a lot of shifts, motions. We do a lot of formation of the boundary. We do a lot of big people but run weak, or big people and put it into the boundary and you don't know what you're doing and just throw it to the number 1 receiver. Just all sorts of things that happen on the fly. And then we had our running back ended up being the all-time leading rusher. So it helps when he can just tuck the ball and go, and everyone tries to stop him. And our receivers didn't get as much publicity as I think they should, but they were both big physical guys that could win one-on-one. And then once they caught it too, they could actually run away from you and go score. And then even our slot receivers, they ended up both having some pretty good like games and catches and stats, but they just didn't get as much love because we had those 2 guys on the outside. We had the number 1 leading rusher, and then we actually had another guy who graduates the same time frame, and they were players the whole 4 years together, ended up being number 9, missing his whole junior year too. So we had 2 really good running backs in our offensive line. 4 of them were starters the year before as juniors and came together, and then another guy adds in at one spot, but they were, for the most part, 2-year starters and played together all the time. So it's more just me more having fun, but it's all the kids. I mean, it's only if they mess up, it's on me. If they do anything good, it's on them kind of thing.
Nice. So you guys, sounds like you graduated a lot of guys that played?
A lot. So we ended up graduating 35 seniors. And offensively, in our 22, like 2 deep, we graduated, I think it was 18.
So you're going to have a lot of opportunity for young guys to cut their teeth.
Exactly. Now more time before they get to prove it too at that point. So it's nice to have a lot more time for competition.
It's going to be kind of weird that you're going to bring in almost essentially 2 freshman classes for the next time we play football. Isn't that wild to think about?
Crazy. And I know we're different than like you guys. Like we're not worried about like scholarships and what they carry over and limits that way. We're just whoever's coming in's coming in. It's a little different. It's not as it's still stressful to get kids proper reps when we get to that time frame and proper evaluation time, but it's a little different than you guys with the commitment you're giving to a student athlete.
Yeah, it's the league needs to come out with some guidelines, and then the school's got to fund it if they do come up with the guidelines, and that's costly. You can't just fund it for one sport. You probably got to fund it for multiple. I don't know what it's going to look like. And we have a 90-man roster limit, so that's where you get really it gets really tight. So we'll see. How many of you guys are going to carry next year? Like 150?
So we will have in the fall, we're going to have right now, for whatever workouts we're cleared to do, we're going to have 120. So we'll see, because there's not going to be as much melt that happens throughout like a season and going into a spring and then into another fall. So be curious to see what our roster looks like next fall.
It's going to be fantastic.
Thanks a lot for taking the time to sit down with me. And I guess it's home sweet home back there for you. But again, appreciate sitting down and spending some quality time and sharing some stuff that I can say I didn't know went into the world of sports performance and strength and conditioning.
Cool. I appreciate you having me on and spreading the good word. And, if anybody out there ever needs anything, my email's on the Holy Cross website.
Perfect. Thanks again.